this regular council meeting of the Village of Manan to order on March the 9th, 2020 at 7:30 p.m. at the Manan Community Center. And tonight for prayer we have Pastor Dave Phillips from the North End Baptist Church.
Good evening. It's good to be here again. Thank you for the opportunity. Let's pray. Lord, we do thank you for the opportunity to gather here this evening and discuss matters of interest regarding island life. And I thank you for the opportunity we have to live here on this island and enjoy the many blessings that we do. I want to take the opportunity as well to pray for this council and for the mayor and for all the staff that keep our island running smoothly. And just pray that we will be able to give back as well, each and every one of us who live here on this beautiful spot. So just bless this evening, and may many things come from this that will just enhance life here on this island. We ask this in Jesus' name.
Thank you, Pastor Phillips. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The month of February is passed away, and again, Manan is lucky again with very little snow accumulation. The weather has not been a good thing for the fishermen with heavy winds from all directions. We must remember that March at times can be a mad month for snow and strong winds. The adventure is back on the run, which is a welcome sight. Council wants to remind the people of Manan of the dangers of COVID-19. Let's remember to wash your hands and use sanitizer, and not to put your fingers to your face. Manan may be off the beaten path, but that does not mean we are not immune from COVID-19. Let us all practice safe habits. Municipal elections are in May, so let's see that the people exercise their right and vote for the candidates of their choice. We, a council, are here to make Manan a better place to live. Number 4 is the disclosure of conflict of interest.
Mr. Mayor, there's conflict on 10-1.
Mr. Mayor, I will also declare conflict on 10-1.
Well, for your information, there is going to be one. I just needed a letter requested. Okay, number 5 is adoption of the minutes of February the 3rd, 2020.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt the minutes of February 3rd, 2020.
You heard the motion by Councillor Cheney. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Sturgeon. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Additions to the agenda. So we have a request for a donation from Sophie Saplankas. That would be an addition.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move for the addition.
You heard the motion by Councillor Sturgeon to add that to our agenda. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Simmons. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. That'll be under 10-6. We have nobody for the RCMP report unless Councillor Cheney, you'd like to give us a briefing?
Mr. Mayor, I was not arrested this week.
Should you have been?
No answer.
Please the fifth.
Take the fifth, like you
Nothing more than that.
8 is old business. 8.1 is the Wellness Center. An information update. Councillor Roger Fitzsimmons to update us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, but I'd like to move this to the rec director's report if I could, please.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
We'll do that. I don't think we need a motion for that. Next is the 10-minute open session.
I'd like to speak,
Yes.
if possible. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, councilors, and everyone else. Since our neighbor purchased the property beside us at 1178 Route 776, his animals have continually been on our property, doing their business on our doorsteps, walkway, lawn, etc. There have been dogs, hens, roosters, turkeys, rabbits, goats, and pigs. In 2014, when the carpenters were shingling the exterior of our house, the goats were right over chewing the new shingles off. We would be woken up hearing the goats chewing on the house in the night. We have worked hard to maintain our property, only to have our flowers eaten off, the grass eaten so low that new lawn is weeds, sod rooted up, and our maple trees we planted chewed on and destroyed. One maple has had so much damage that it was no longer salvageable and we had to cut it down. A hanging basket of flowers I received in May was chewed completely off by the goats within 10 days. Leonard approached Chris and told him about the damage and that the wife would like them replaced. He replied, "Well, that ain't gonna happen. Hang them in the air higher so they can't get to them." We have been woken up in the middle of the night to the sound of footsteps on our doorstep, only to realize the goats are loose and racing up and down the steps. We do not own any animals. We inquired with Fundy Fencing about having fence installed around our property. The cost was over $10,000. Over the years, we tried to deal with the situation ourselves by talking to Chris, calling his cell phone, going to his door, and leaving a note on his windshield. As a response, he has said, "I know it, and you know it, that council or the RCMP can't do anything about it, so get used to it. You've got to share your land." Leonard responded with, "No, I want you to keep your animals on your part." When I spoke to him once regarding my flower bed being eaten by the goats, he simply walked away. We called the RCMP 3 times in December of 2018 regarding the goats in our yard and chewing on our maple trees. They spoke to someone over at Chris's, and then they told us to keep taking pictures when the goats are here. They suggested we inquire at the village office to see if there was a bylaw in place. I did go to the office and was told, "Sorry, but there's only a bylaw for dogs." And it was September of 2019 that we last called the RCMP when our maple tree was destroyed and there was goat poop all around it. We planted these trees 12 and 14 years ago. Last Friday evening, we were to the police station to meet with Corporal Short regarding the open files on our complaint. After some discussion, we were told that in order for them to pursue it further, that there has to be a significant amount of damage, dollar-wise, to get a lawyer and a judge to listen to us. He suggested that we should approach the village council to request a bylaw be put in place that includes requiring the confinement of such animals to their own property. This is our request. We shouldn't have to wait until everything is destroyed before something is done. We know that other islanders have dealt with the same issue, and without a bylaw in place, it could very well be happening to any one of you. Thank you for your time. And there's pictures should be too.
So it's up to you to comment, sir.
There is no bylaw, Laurel. I'm kind of surprised that the amount of police give you that answer. There's your property's been destroyed. Doesn't matter whether it's animal or your neighbor itself did it. I would.
I'd like to talk about this later
I would
on.
certainly.
What was your comment, Councillor?
I'd like to talk about that when we talk about the dog bylaw on here, if we could, please. There's an update to the
Who are
dog
you talking
bylaw.
to at the station, Laura?
Friday night it was Corporal Short.
It's just like we don't even own our land.
Well, that's what I mean.
No matter what we say.
Corporal
it's
Short,
just-
that's McCann.
No, there's people coming in and going, coming and going. So I don't know, that name is not familiar. He could be from St. George or he could be from St. Stephen's.
Anybody, the indication that you have to have a certain amount of money before they get involved, in my experience, that's That's not correct. I mean, it's,
Yeah, he said in order for a lawyer to listen to us and want to take it further to a judge, and for a judge to believe it and want to do the nuisance or, you know, whatever it will be under, that there has to be significant amount. Them wandering around on our yard and whatever isn't enough. Constantly. Yeah, I mean, if you drive by our house, you'll probably see goats in our yard, right?
yeah.
If not pigs, too.
Well, I've seen them going down the road. Somebody said one went into the bank.
We're at the bank in Home Hardware,
The
and-
lumber building, yes.
So we'll have some.
but I would, yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit when
We'll move
I
it down to.
talk about the dog bylaw. Yes.
So,
Everything that we work for is being destroyed a little bit at a time.
we're going a little further with this than we probably should, because we're not to have any reply to somebody that speaks in the
Yes,
10-minute
I understand.
open session, but I think this is a little bit different. I know I've seen them around. I wonder why something isn't done with them. So again, we'll move it down. The next thing is the Manan Ferry Service request for New Year's Day crossing.
We had a meeting,
Oh,
sorry. Oh, sorry guys.
Okay.
The Ferry Partnership Committee had their meeting. There wasn't a lot of new issues to bring up or anything like that, but we did mention the New Year's Day crossing because it was successful this past year. On the return trip, there were 46 vehicles, which is, you know, actually more than we thought there would be, so it was obviously used. And we'd like to have that continue going forward. And it may well, but we thought this year, just as a precautionary thing, we would put in a request to have it, you know, this coming New Year's Day, so that, you know, we could get a pattern established, that kind of thing. But we just thought it was important to do it this formal way one more time, kind of thing, just to kind of firm up that, yes, this is how we want to go forward. We also had the discussion on the refit period, and that was basically around the fact that the time that the refit can take place is very limited, because lately they've been taking place in Newfoundland. So the weather has to be so that, you know, they can get there, they can get back, they can do the work that needs to be done while it's there. So we asked if they could look at possibly having refits done down south, because what's happening is these are always falling on our shoulder season for tourism, and I think we all know the fact that we get quite a few tourists in the fall. Actually, it's one of the prettiest times here, in my opinion, so we found it very limiting to have that kick in so early, you know, when the traffic is still pretty heavy and people are still wanting to come here. And I mean, traffic's heavy most of the year now, but there are times that, you know, it is significantly less, and having the refit take place down south would give us a much broader time period to have it take place. Ones that would have significantly less impact on the traffic and on people's plans and, you know, appointments and things like that, that they really should be able to go to whenever they need to. They were going to take that back with them, is my understanding, and that we were going to discuss it further, but we at least got it on the table. It had been brought up before, but we just kind of brought it up again so that we could see what could happen, you know, the next time there is a refit. The request for New Year's Day crossing, do we have to have a motion to send that letter?
Yeah, just before you get into that. We did had some discussions on a replacement ferry. What if one of the Grand Manan Adventures in dry dock and the 5 is on the run and it breaks down? What is the contingency plan? Well, we didn't have one. Well, I've been informed that the Fundy Rose Digby St. John Ferry will fit the dock here to Grand Manan. It will also fit the Black's Harbor one. They're usually down to 1 trip a day, so they could do one to Digby and then they could come this way and do another one. And of Councillor Turner speaking about going south, we went to Fredericton for a meeting and we took Bev Fleet with us. And this was before the dry docking. We were trying to get the dry docking put off to a later date, but we couldn't get that done because of steamboat inspectors. Well, they said, well, it'll be a good time. Bev Fleet says January or February. Where are you gonna paint in January or February? He said, go south until you see the sun. So it was Bev. He was a big help to us there. Now, Councillor Turner, you can go with that motion.
Okay, I want to make a motion that we request by letter a New Year's crossing again for 2021.
You heard the motion by Councillor Turner. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Sturgeon. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Mayor, if I may just ask one thing about that, which it says south, I assume that's an American refit
Yes.
that she's talking about?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's, I think that's where the Fundy Rose goes.
Yeah.
Yes, that way.
Yep.
So, okay, the next
We'll
thing.
get, Robert and then back in.
Didn't even miss him, Councillor.
Yeah.
The duties of a recreation director are quite varied, aren't they?
An open job description.
Okay, 10-2 is the Grand Manan Airport, Councillor Ingersoll.
I was hoping to have an update to give council tonight, but we haven't heard back from the engineer yet for the application, so we're just gonna have to hold off until that time.
Well, you could just say, okay, what we were going after.
Yeah, well, we got our application in to redo what I'm calling the second phase of the airport. And that is to redo what's there now and extend the runway and to have everything back up to snuff the way that it should be. And right now, just so everybody knows, we got some pictures a few weeks ago from the airport. And what's there now for the runway is really getting to be in bad shape, and it's getting to the point that it could very well not be able to be used in the near future. So something's got to be done up there, but we do have the application in, and we're just waiting for the engineer actually to finish that application up for us so we can put it forward. But I was hoping to have more information tonight, but that's actually it for now.
So,
Unless there's something that you...
if the big one wasn't approved, there is,
Yeah, if the full application isn't accepted or whatever, we have Plan B, which is to downsize it, which I'm hoping we don't have to do. But there is a Plan B there, so if the first one's rejected, we've got one to go right behind that. So. But it definitely needs to be, something needs to be done right away.
Mr. Mayor, if I may inquire upon Councilman Ingersoll, what is exactly Plan B? Is it basically
Well,
repaying what we got, or?
Yes.
Okay.
This
But-
is still using federal money.
The whole thing, yeah, oh yeah, the same, it would be the
So
same.
the cost to us is actually just to run,
Yeah.
just to plow and
Yep,
lights and that sort of
yeah,
stuff.
So-
keep the maintenance.
what it was is widen the existing runway and repave, isn't it, Councillor Ingersoll?
Yes, we wanted to extend the runway 3,000 feet and to widen it enough so that you could land a 737 there or its equivalency in a prop plane. But the length we need anyway for safety reasons, and to widen it isn't that much more to have it widened so that you could have a bigger plane come in here potentially if you wanted to.
So you're saying it's in hard shape. So is there an inspection process that we could fail an inspection?
I'm sure there is,
Yes.
yes. And it's getting to that point now.
They even tell us when we have to do the lines on the airport.
But when your pilots and stuff are saying there's places on it that you're trying to avoid, then you know you've got things are bad up there. So it's at the point now where it isn't you want something or nice to have, it is a necessity. We've got to have
It's not a
it.
convenience, it's a necessity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we're having bigger planes coming in and talking to a couple of the pilots. They're very concerned on the length of the runway. If they get in the air and something happens, there's nowhere for them to go.
Yep. And I believe that runway was, when it was first built, the plans for it was 2,000 feet longer than what it is right now anyway.
Yeah.
And they took that off to save money or put it somewhere else, so. Anyway, it is needed.
And both of those projects are 100% funded by the federal government. Okay, an update of the dog bylaw, Councillor Fitzsimmons.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I had the opportunity a few months ago to sit down and talk to our animal control person, and she'd come up with a list of things that she'd like to see written in the bylaw, just to update it, and things that would help her out with her job. I was just wondering if there was an update on that, if we knew where that was, or has that been moved ahead any? No. Okay, maybe if we could do that, it'd be appreciated. Now, I'd asked Lenny and Laurel told me their story, and I asked them to come in tonight just to brief council and everything, and I was looking at the bylaw, our bylaw for animal control and that, and it's really all to do with dogs, as you know, dogs and cats and that, and after hearing their story and listening to others, I really feel that we really need to amend this bylaw even more than what we had talked about. We need to bring into the definition of animals. St. Andrews has, they include, it says animals defined included but not limited to dogs, cats, and horses. Perth Andover in their bylaws, the animal includes all vertebrate pets, including mammals, birds, reptiles, and fishes. And Shediac's got one that I really like. Animal means any wild or domestic mammal, including a cat or a dog. So I really think that we should widen our bylaw to include these animals that are running free. Like you say, we see these animals down at the bank, we see these animals at Home Hardware, and I really think that if you're going to have animals, which is great, I have no problem with that, but I think they need to be kept in your own yard instead of wandering onto other people's property and destroying that.
Well, we always said there's nothing wrong with animals, it's the owners.
This is true, Mr. Mayor, but it'd be nice if we could amend that bylaw and have that done, include Stephanie's updates that she wanted, and update the animal part of it. Because there's provisions in here for the enforcement and all that sort of stuff, and the responsibilities of the owners and all that. That's already in our bylaw, but it has to do with dogs instead of.
So who's on the bylaw committee, Rob?
I am, I think Mark is, and I thought there was one other.
I thought it was me, but I might be mistaken about that.
Well, we can put up with you or not.
I don't doubt you.
There is a process, obviously, for updating a bylaw. You decide what you want, you put your bylaw and your updates to the bylaw committee. We go through them, fine tune them, bring them back to council. there's a notification process after council as a whole decides that this wants to read this way, and then it takes a little time, but it's very easily done.
Right.
Time enough before things don't get destroyed altogether?
You know, Mr. Mayor, I've always said, if everyone exercised common sense and common courtesy, then people like you and I would be within a job. But it's always the extremes of people that the reason why you have to put things down on paper, unfortunately, so.
Yep.
Is there nothing that can be done outside of us in the bylaw for what's happening to them in their situation now?
I always thought there was something there that stated, like a pig or a horse, you could have one, but you couldn't have any more than that. It's never,
I know that anything, any more than 3 pigs or more is considered a piggery under the rural plan. I mean,
That's in the rural plan.
Yeah, that is, yeah.
so you must be able to have them, I guess.
yeah.
But is there nothing in there that,
I can't believe that the damage to property isn't an
No, I
issue.
can't
That's
either.
what
Yeah.
surprises me. It's not just that there's an animal on the property, but the damage. There should be something that,
I'm not a legal mind, but I would think that that would go under civil law, be a civil suit.
No, it's a criminal code offense.
and it should be. I mean, it's no different than if the neighbor came over and
Well, that's
ruined
what
your
gets
tree.
me.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's his responsibility.
Absolutely.
And if a neighbor came over and hacked down your tree, then you would obviously have a legal leg to stand on, so.
You don't have to have $100 before it comes to defense. You
Mm.
destroyed somebody's property.
Of course, if you're so much damage, like above $5,000 or whatever, then it becomes up the next level or whatever, but there's under $5,000 and over kind of thing, for example, right?
Yeah, but all these other bylaws, and I think in ours it talks about what the animals are doing, if they're making waste on somebody's property, that the owner's supposed to come over and clean it up, and all that sort of stuff, which is happening here.
Yes.
so I would say to get something to the bylaw committee as soon as possible, and we'll deal with it.
We'd appreciate that.
Three
Would-
readings later, it's done.
Would it be possible for us to contact the RCMP and say that on behalf of, like, someone in our community, can you tell us why this isn't an issue as far as the law is concerned? I don't mean necessarily a letter or anything, but could we,
I think we're getting, I've talked to the RCMP, they've talked to the RCMP, and we kind of get different stories almost.
well, it should be different from the one that
Well,
you get.
we're not getting the one that's really satisfying. But,
I think the village council should go above and beyond and
So
look after this issue.
Yeah.
we're talking an issue like this, and it's gonna go back to the bylaw committee, so why doesn't the bylaw committee invite one of the RCM, the corporal, to come in and say, okay, this is what we've got for a problem, explain to us why.
it's a good
It's a
idea,
criminal offense.
absolutely.
Yeah, and it helps, I mean, we can always say, we don't know what to put in our bylaw.
Yep.
If it's already covered by, federal statute or whatever, then, it would help us to know what we need to incorporate, but, I think that's as good a reason as any to start, anyway.
So I don't think we need a motion for that, it's just that the bylaw committee gets together and as soon as possible and see about updating this to include all animals instead of just
Yeah,
dogs
and to
cats.
take into consideration their
Yeah.
officers' recommendations that have been made. Yeah,
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, so in the meantime, our citizens have to take and put up with this inconvenience? I know you can't probably shoot a pig when it's on the road, but, they've been harassed. This is harassment.
It is.
so this is,
and it's dangerous too, because you've got these 500-pound animals walking around with traffic, and
Do they get mad?
it's bad enough, people walking on the road, but now you've got animals going and not really caring about the traffic or anything.
Sure. Children walking
So
along?
it's children walking along.
I've had to swerve for goats at night before.
So, Mr. Mayor, just to be clear here, the bylaw, we're gonna have bylaw committee come up with updates and to be decided, of course, voted on 3.
But you're gonna meet with the RCMP.
Not-
Yes, of
Yeah,
course.
have a meeting as soon as we can with the
Yeah.
RCMP.
Yeah.
And find out why something isn't being done. It is a criminal offense.
Okay, very good.
But I don't
You
know
want to
if
set a
any,
date for that tonight? Sorry, do you want to set a date for that tonight?
Yeah, I can.
Noontime?
I think
Can't be tomorrow, I do know that. When are you working, sir, if I may ask?
Any day,
Yes.
noontime.
I don't work anymore.
No?
I told that this morning.
This room's free every day this month except the 18th.
I'm
So
good
you're
for-
not free tomorrow?
Not free tomorrow, but any other time I'm good.
I'm not free tomorrow either. I don't think, but then the rest of the day, rest of the week I am.
So Councilor Ingersoll, it's up to you to pick a date.
It doesn't matter to me, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever's best for you.
Wednesday's
both.
good.
Wednesday noon?
Wednesday noon.
Will you see if you can get an RCMP to join us?
Yeah, I want Curtis, I wanted to talk anyway, before you
Okay.
guys. Talk to him in the bathroom.
I'm gonna say Wednesday at noon until I hear different.
Yep, Wednesday noon for me.
Thank you.
Okay, 10-4 is Charlotte County Cancer Society and an application for a donation submitted by Dickie Morgan. That for Dickie Morgan was requested, was,
It's for the Cure for Cancer.
well, I know that, yeah. Requested was $200, and it was for the Charlotte County Cancer Society, the Cure for Cancer.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to,
Go ahead.
okay, I said, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to give this donation as requested.
You heard the motion by Councilor Sturgeon. Do we have a second? Or is Councilor Janey? Question.
Well, looks like Dick's raised $2,100 so far. Did a great job.
Excellent.
So glad, they're fortunate to have him as a fundraiser.
Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So 10-5 is a letter that came into council. So, if anybody is a Facebook fan, they've read this on Facebook. If not, I'll read it. If you could prevent an accident or save a life by taking no more than 20 seconds of your time, would you? I live directly across the highway from a wonderful complex that we have been afforded. I am so thankful. It's truly amazing, enjoyed by many. However, there are traffic accidents waiting to happen as vehicles entering or leaving the complex with an 80-kilometer zone and passing lane. We have witnessed many a potential accident from families leaving a market, hockey game, trade show, the list goes on and on. It will happen that a tragic accident with all the trafficking entering Route 776 will occur. There are no sidewalks for those walking, running, or on a bicycle, no traffic light nor crosswalks. Within the stretch of highway where we currently have an island complex with the Boys and Girls Club daycare, entering Route 776, Manan transfer station, entering Route 76, and noted that just last week a vehicle was entering from Route 776 from the transfer station was turning onto the highway when a vehicle suddenly was passing. Thankfully, the family pulled over to the side of the gravel, nearly going into the ditch. A curling club where socials that encompass many of our island attend. Ambulance New Brunswick location entering Route 776. The only car wash facility on the island entering Route 776. Fisheries and Oceans Canada office ending Route 776, hauling boats, trailers, and equipment. In process also on the stretch of a highway is a centralized church which represents 200 or more people entering Route 776. School buses daily stopping with your children and entering Route 776 with a passing lane in the 80-kilometer zone. I would suggest that this indeed is not the place for a passing lane on Route 776. This is not a rant or a gripe. However, I hope that you will understand should we elect to do something. It's on our hands. I therefore submit this request to the Grand Manan Village Council and for them to engage with the NB government about the importance of taking action to help prevent a future tragedy. I feel it's also noteworthy that responses to this request posted on social media when we're in excess of 150 families. Thank you. Respectfully submitted, Grant Avery. The only thing, it is not a passing lane. It's a broken line. A passing lane, you know what a passing lane, you see them really on a 4-lane highway or going up a hill. People can pull over to the right and the other people can pass. So I think if we sent that in as a passing lane, they wouldn't know what we were talking about. But the broken line becoming a solid line.
What's the procedure to do something like that?
The letter would have to go to the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure because it is a provincial highway. It can go with a motion. The council approves it, or it can go without a motion.
Just see what their opinion is, Mr. Mayor, basically.
So what they will do is they will come down and look at it.
Mhm.
They will have probably a vehicle with a radar in it, and they'll find out how fast the traffic is going. They'll watch the situation. And I don't know what their criteria is.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we send a letter to Department, to DTI to assess the situation, let them know of our concerns, and get their response.
You heard the motion by Deputy Mayor Moses. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Cheney. Question?
What kind of time frame might one be looking at for that? Like, is it a,
I would hope it would be before July.
oh, sorry, hey.
May, probably. I was talking to the guy that puts the lines on the road, and he's hoping to come here in May, so they have a decision. And there wasn't, remember, there was a request went in from last month on a change in speed limit, so there's two things.
Right.
So it goes to the minister with the CC, the district engineer in St. John.
Okay.
Should we note that our lines expect to be painted in May, and we'd like to have this done before that? And as a matter of fact, I will amend my motion to include that.
Agreed.
Okay. So, any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So now we go to 10-6. An application for a donation amount requested $250. Total funds required $450. Fundraised to date $180. And
Mr. Mayor, I see something quite remarkable about this in the adjoining letter. They've actually offered to give something back. In return, our class would like to spend 2 Saturdays this spring helping to clean up one of our many beautiful beaches. They want to go get out and earn it.
Yes. So how much money are they asking from us again?
They're asking for $250, but our bylaw is limited to $200.
But they're, like
We're
you said,
talking two different things.
yeah, that's what I said, but you, as you said, they're basically willing to work for it kind of thing. So is it truly a donation? Or is it kind of a,
Application for donation.
But it's most people just ask for the money and don't offer to do it.
Exactly, my point.
And that's what they're saying, is okay, they'll clean a couple of beaches,
sorry, yeah,
or whatever, a couple of.
bargain, really?
Yeah, it's a bargain.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we accept their offer to clean the 2 beaches for $250. Clean one of 2 beaches for $250.
You heard the motion by Councillor Sturgeon. Do we have a seconder?
Second that.
Seconded by Councillor Cheney. Question?
Is it possible to do the $200 based on this and give them a donation of $70 towards beach cleaning? That would cover their costs, like they have $180 and that would give them their $450. I'm just very impressed with the offer to clean the beaches, so I wondered if we could break it into 2 and give them $200 for the trip and $70 for beach cleaning.
Well, all the money's gonna be used for the trip, so just, if this was council's wish, just change the motion to 270
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
instead of the 200. You want to amend that motion?
Yes, $270.
Agreed. Okay. Any other questions?
Thanks, Jane.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Recreation report from our Recreation Director, Mr. Raymond. He's pretty flashy tonight. He's trapped.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I always try to look my best. I told Councillor Moses that I should start my report by saying this recreation report is brought to you by Trap Clothing. So this past week we had go-go gymnastics down for March break camp. Before go-go came down, there was concern that we wouldn't have enough participants in order to come up with enough money to pay the bill. So we had some fundraising in place to do so, but by the time that they had left last week, it was a completely full camp. We filled every spot, which was great to see. And a big part of that goes out to Kate Benson, who was our community lead that helped to organize that. It was great that she took that on. So in the invoices to be paid, just to give you a little bit of an explanation to save some questions later, there's an invoice there from Go-Go Gymnastics for, I believe, $10,300. So what that is was Go-Go sent us the bill for us to pay, and in return, what happened was all the money that was brought in through registrations and fundraising and donations was sent into Kate. So basically what it is was the camp was $9,000 plus HST, which came out to be $10,300. Recreation gets 100% of the HST back, so we will get the $1,300 back. So what happened was Kate cut a check to Alyssa for the $9,000, which was the cost of the camp. Clear on that, Councillor Cheney?
Just a vote.
So what happened to the 50?
He meant to say 50. He meant to put that on there.
I meant to say 50.
I feel better now.
My shirt blurring my vision here on my page. So we've only got a couple weeks left in the rink. It's hard to believe that a 6-month season has already come and gone. It seems like only yesterday we were talking about having the ice put in, turning the machine on. Another great year this year. Minor hockey, as always, was a huge success. This is all done because of all of our many volunteers, from our coaches, our on-ice helpers, referees, timekeepers. It takes a huge crew to keep that going. We were lucky enough to have one of our teams make it into the final or the semifinals. Our midget team finished second place in their division this year, which they earned the right to host their semifinal game, which is going to be held here this Saturday at 12:30. Because they finished in their top division, they will also represent Southern New Brunswick at provincials, which is a huge honor as well. So congratulations to that group of kids. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Fitzsimmons, I think the provincials this year is in Kent Sud, which is Rishabukto.
Rishabukto area. Yep.
So it's great, the kids will get to practice their French while they're there. The Nick Huggard tournament is also scheduled for the weekend of March 27th and 28th. That will be our last event before our machine is shut off. After the machine is shut off, our Zamboni is scheduled to go to refit this year in Fredericton up to Saunders Equipment, just to give it a good going over. It's starting to show its age, so we'll send that up to get an idea of what it might need to continue on. It serves very well every 7 days a week for 6 months. The Seal Cove Playground is still kind of in the planning stages. We had no response back yet from RDC on the application that we put in for the funding. Now I know our MLA has expressed the interest in that, and the application went directly to her executive assistant, and he was going to take it personally to Fredericton. So we're hoping to hear back on that very soon. The new climbing structure has been ordered for Victoria Park. There's a set of gear there that's certainly showing its age that we'd like to get rid of, just to kind of help spruce that park up, especially this year where we're going to be having the new outdoor courts go in. So everything is on track for the outdoor courts to be completed as soon as the weather cooperates. Hopefully this year will be in early spring. Things dry up soon enough so we can get everybody in there to get that project finished. I know the pickleballers are awful keen to get outside as soon as the weather allows. Baseball and softball has already started their discussions on the summer season. The Grand Harbor ball field at Victoria Park is scheduled for some new infield mix this year. The infield mix is currently being stockpiled over at the pool. I think it was a 38-ton load of mix that was brought in from St. John. The mix is a combination of some sand and clay, which is the proper stuff for that infield. And again, depending on what kind of spring we're looking at, we may need to start everything out at Seal Cove again like we did last year until Victoria Park dries up. But we won't know that until we get there. So hopefully it's a dry spring. So I guess the last thing on my list is the 8-1 under old business was the Wellness Center. I guess the biggest thing there was we had met, Councillor Fitzsimmons and Councillor Cheney and myself had met a while back, and then the council got together in a special meeting to discuss the project. And I think in lieu of some recent events on social media with a lot of false information being spread, a lot of fear being put out into the community about the possibility of stuff taking place, I think now that we have a real grip on the numbers, and as we all know, the provincial budget comes down tomorrow, so hopefully we'll have a better idea of where this project stands from the province on whether or not there's any money in that part of the budget for projects like that we've applied for. So I think the biggest thing is to be ready for when that happens. And after talking to Councillor Sturgeon last week, Councillor Fitzsimmons, I think what we would like to do is have everything all set up when word comes down with we get approved, to send a mail out to all the residents of the island in a bullet form stating the facts on what we know for costs. Get that out to the residents, give everybody a chance to digest that over a week or two, and then hold our public consultations.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion associated with this, if I could, please.
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion that if the funding comes through, for our wellness center. The council will put together a mail out to the community with the information of costs associated with borrowing and running the center. Then follow that up with public meetings to get the public input.
You heard the motion by Councillor Simmons. Do we have a seconder?
Well, second, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Sturgeon. Question?
Is there a timeline on this? I mean, we have the money, there might be a spot in the budget that there might be money available, then so when the money becomes available, do we know what the budget's gonna say that we are gonna be able to get money?
Well, it's our understanding that anything the province approves, the federal government will approve it. Any project that they approve. So the only holdup is the budget, and is it in the provincial budget? Right?
Yes.
As far as, that's what our understanding.
I believe, Mr. Mayor, that those communities that have some monies coming, I wouldn't be surprised in the current situation that they'll hear quite soon, I would think myself, so.
So this was a discussion that we have had that is okay, but when we find out that this could be a go, we will go with the mail out to the households, and then we'll have a public meeting. It's no sense in people hollering that they want a plebiscite when you don't even know you're going into a municipal election, you don't even know whether you got the money or not.
Exactly.
So your public consultation and a public meeting.
Do we need to have a motion to send a mail out?
We have before, Mr. Mayor, I believe, so, because
I think probably it is a good place to have it with the controversial issues that are out there, that people are talking. So many people were presenting false information. So, you made the motion and you seconded it. Anything else for the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
So if I can leave you with one thing here, food for thought. We all know in the last 10 years, we can't imagine where we'd be today without this community center. We all agree how much this has changed our community. And then you hear people talking about how they can't imagine how we could ever afford to pay for a pool. This community center cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 million. The village was responsible at the time for a third, which was 1.3 million is what we had to borrow. Currently, in our budget, taking into consideration 50% of the recreation salaries going towards 6 months worth of operation for this facility, our current budget right now is $268,000 to operate this community center. The wellness center, a $7 million project, under the certain circumstances with the government possibly doing up to 60% with the provincial third, puts the municipal part at less than 500,000. And an operating budget at about 216,000. So how do we ever get away with running the community center if the pool is so far out of the question?
And if I could, Chris, we keep saying pool, but it's more than just a pool.
The wellness center, which includes indoor heated pool, a walking track, and a fitness center, which is about 3 times the size of our current facility.
Yeah.
Which is it's used a lot. Probably better than it has been for quite some time, as I understand it from your numbers, so. Yeah.
And as I was saying to Chris, what I'm hearing is people say do away with the walking track. And we've tried to provide something for all ages, and this would be great for the elderly people like myself and Greg Piddick.
Thank you.
So it is, and I look at all of the negatives that was out there about this facility when we started the plans for it and the construction on it. And it's a lot, 90% of it is turned into positives. And I said, I totally was against amalgamation back in 1995. But when I look back at this facility, we'd have never had it if it hadn't been for amalgamation. So, move ahead, whatever the people want.
And I'd just like to mention that even if this funding comes through, this is not a done deal. I mean, we go to the public to talk about it and to hash it out, and I mean, even on council, there's still questions and
Sure.
all that, so it's far from a done deal. We're not trying to sneak
Well, this
something
is what
by
the
here or
public
anything.
consultation is,
Absolutely.
is to find out, hey,
Everybody will have
do
their
we
say.
go with this or not?
Yep.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I've always believed that a well-informed constituency helps the representatives make well-informed decisions.
So, we can leave that? Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Approval to pay the following invoices. 12-1, the General Operating Fund, Go-Go Gymnastics, March Break, $10,350. Approach Navigation Systems, Annual Airport Maintenance, $2,760. Dutchman Contracting, Bush Hogging at the Airport, $7,590.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we pay those aforementioned invoices from the general operating fund.
You heard the motion by Councillor Cheney. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Moses. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 12-2 is the General Capital Fund, Dutchman Contracting, Outdoor Pickleball Court, $60,375.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to pay the invoice from Dutchman Contracting of the general, as stated from the General Capital Fund.
You heard the motion by Councillor Sturgeon. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councillor Turner. Question? I think probably we should be adding into that was gas tax money?
Yep, next one. Yeah.
And this is the basketball courts and the tennis court and the pickleball court.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Motion to transfer funds, motion to transfer $60,375 from the gas tax fund to the general capital fund.
Mr. Mayor, I will so move.
Heard the motion by Deputy Mayor Moses. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Fitzsimmons. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And if we could go back to additions to the agenda. There was an addition that was overlooked. And it was for closed session, and it's a discussion on the doctor's residence.
Mayor, I would move that we move the topic of the doctor's residence to closed session.
You heard the motion by Councillor Cheney. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councillor Turner. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We're into closed. Back in order after closed session, and we was in closed session to discuss housing for our doctors. We need a motion.
I'll make it if you want. I make the motion that we increase, do I give the figure?
Yeah.
That we increase the housing allowance for our doctors from $500 to $1,000 a month, pending the doctor finding a new place after May.
You heard the motion by Councillor Turner. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councillor Ingersoll. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, Pete, and your help.